Journalism.
The time is just gone 8:34 a.m. on this Friday morning, and we're going across now to Pakistan to be joined by journalist and political analyst Ahmed Quraishi. And this comes against the background of Pakistan now being put under pressure to recognize Israel. And this has come through from the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan following the UAE, Bahrain, and Sudan, who had actually signed US brokered normalization agreements with Israel. And since then, they have rapidly been building ties. Brother Ahmed, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum salam. Good to be with you.
Yes, wonderful having you with us. Now, obviously, this whole question surrounding Pakistan now being put under pressure to recognize Israel, and we see Imran Khan, the Prime Minister, coming through quite strongly and saying that, he has absolutely no second thought about recognizing Israel unless there is a just settlement which satisfies Palestine.
Right. There's something very strange happened. He did passingly say that in an interview to a Pakistani channel, and he did not elaborate who and how or when and who was doing the pressure and so forth. He did sort of say that it's friendly countries. I don't want to mention names. And then a couple of media outlets said it was the United States which is pressuring. A couple of media outlets said it was Saudi Arabia that was pressuring. Nothing official. And then all of a sudden, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the government, of course, under Prime Minister Imran Khan, came out, the spokesman, very strongly sort of condemning these media speculations, saying that it's not true, it's incorrect. In fact, the spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs used the word fabrication by the media. He said, this report about pressures is fabricated. Of course, this was confusing and amusing at the same time, because none other than the Prime Minister of the government alluded or tried to passingly hint at some sort of pressure. And then his own government, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, came out to condemn the media for, talking about this and said that it's a fabrication and it's not true. So this was a very unusual. I thought I bring this to your attention as well. This was very interesting. And I personally had an experience the very next day, or in fact, the very same day, I was invited by the state-run TV channel, the PTV, which is government-run channel, on telephone to speak on this. So while I was on the phone, just like I'm right now with you, I was on the phone at a 5 p.m. After the news bulletin, and the anchor asked me the same question and said, the spokesman of the foreign ministry has condemned the media for fabricating this story. It's an untrue story. There's no pressure. So what do you say? And I was confused, and I said, well, I thought, what can I say? It was the prime minister who hinted at it, and now the foreign ministry of his own government is denying it. And I was just beginning to talk about this and refer to this when I was cut midair and told we have to go to a commercial break, and then we never returned to the show. So I thought I'd just tell you this very quickly. There was this very interesting situation. So overall, the Pakistani media, frankly, did not talk much about it, because the one evening the prime minister mentioned pressure, and the second morning the foreign ministry denies it, and then the whole story disappears from the Pakistani media. So, that's just a quick reference. But coming to the actual pressures, it is quite likely, 100%, quite likely that Pakistan might have been approached, just like the UAE and Bahrain and Sudan and others were approached. And of course, now we have, I'm sure you followed the story yesterday, the Palestinian Authority, which initially condemned and opposed these new relationships with Israel. The Palestinian Authority itself now have reached an agreement with Israel to revive all the the previous understandings and agreements with Israel and restore the political and the security relationship. And also, the Palestinian Authority has returned its ambassadors to Bahrain and to UAE, which it withdrew in the aftermath of those relationships and new diplomatic ties with those two countries and Israel. So all of this is very interesting. As for Pakistan, I have to say this: a lot of people don't know this. I personally have been very, very interested in the trajectory of the relationship between Pakistan and Israel, not just now, but over the last almost 25 years. So just for the benefit of your listeners, I'm sure you know about this, but just for the benefit of the people who might be listening, it's very interesting that in 1998, when Pakistan made those 6 nuclear tests along with India in May 1998, immediately after those nuclear tests, there was a huge diplomatic crisis. In fact, it was a military crisis involving Pakistan and Israel when Pakistani government conveyed to the United States that Pakistani missiles are on the standby and will attack Israel if there was an attack on Pakistani nuclear installations in that month, right after the Pakistani nuclear test, because Pakistan had intelligence that Israel and India were planning to attack Pakistani nuclear installations immediately after those nuclear tests. And at that time, and I spoke to the Pakistani ambassador, who was at the time the Pakistan's ambassador in Washington, D.C. What happened is that to contain the crisis and calm Pakistani fears, what happened is that Pakistan was suspecting that some Israeli Air Force jets were stationed at a couple of Indian Air Force bases close to Pakistani border, and Pakistan suspected or had intelligence that these, along with Indian Air Force jets, might attack Pakistan's one of the main Pakistani nuclear installations or reactors. So the United States, in order to calm Pakistani fears and prevent a possible Pakistani attack, not just on India, but also on Israel in retaliation if there was an attack, what happened is that the Pakistani ambassador in Washington, D.C. and the Israeli ambassador in Washington, D.C. came into contact. And for about 5 or 6 hours, both the Pakistani and the Israeli ambassadors actually, on behalf of their governments, began to exchange messages from the governments and the militaries in order to calm fears, because there was a real possibility that if Pakistan suspected that there were to be an attack from Indian territory, that Pakistan was going to also attack Israel. So in order to prevent this possibility, the contacts were initiated between Pakistan and these were possibly the first direct contacts between the two governments back then. And in order to sort of prevent any misunderstanding between two nuclear powers, Pakistan and Israel, those contacts at a very, very low level, this is my understanding as a journalist who covered this story, those contacts sustained and continued at a very low level just to prevent both nuclear powers from ever having a misunderstanding of that sort again, where nuclear missiles and retaliation or attacks could be involved. So that happened in May 1998. So that channel of communication continued at a very, very low level, a back channel between two nuclear powers. That one thing, but the big breakthrough came in 2005 in Turkey, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Turkey. At that time, of course, President Erdogan was the Prime Minister of Turkey in 2005, when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey hosted the foreign minister of Pakistan and the foreign minister of Israel. The Pakistani foreign minister was Khurshid Qasuri, and the Israeli foreign minister at that time was UC Bilin, and both met at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, hosted by the Turkish foreign minister. I'm forgetting his name at that time,
Mm.
and that was the first formal meeting. You know what? When governments meet for the first time, usually you have the flags of both countries on the table. On one side, you have the one delegation. It was on the one side was Pakistani delegation, and the other side was the Israeli delegation. Both foreign ministers facing each other, and at the head of the table was the foreign minister of Turkey. And after the meeting, the three foreign ministers come out in front of the media, and they shake hands. So this was the first formal, real handshake and formal sort of meeting between and contact between the Pakistani and the Israeli governments. But both agreed that we have established contacts, diplomatic, but there will be no diplomatic relations until the establishment of a Palestinian state, the just settlement. So, and this said very openly in the media interaction after the handshake in 2005. So it was always known in Islamabad that the Pakistani governments, not at the government level, but at the diplomatic level, at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they do have contact, sort of communication, quiet, low level, but not diplomatic relations, because Pakistan has conveyed that very, very clearly at all times. We can have communication and contacts for military reasons, for nuclear reasons, for others, but no diplomatic relations until a just settlement happens. So when the prime minister did passingly mention that, obviously he's a prime minister, he's a responsible person. When he says, even though his foreign ministry denied the next day, but he did mention it. It cannot be denied. He mentioned it. The video is there. The interview was about domestic politics. He passingly mentioned it. He did not elaborate. But when he says it, obviously it means there's something going on. What is it? I'm not sure exactly. In my coverage of Pakistani politics and in my sort of conversations with U.S. diplomats, usually the American diplomats now completely sort of try to deny that this relationship between Pakistan and the U.S. involves any type of pressures.
Mm.
So because I'm the whole history of Pakistan and America, and there were times when these two countries had so much trouble going on and so much friction, mainly because of Afghanistan. So now the Americans try not to give the impression that they sort of pressure. So I am a little skeptical about the level of pressure, but I am not. I have no doubt that the U.S. government, maybe not pressure, but they might have sort of conveyed or requested or asked Pakistan to join in and maybe, help the administration of President Trump, because President Trump is has some leverages in Pakistan. The Trump administration is he's the first American president who mentioned, or from using his platform as the American president, mentioned mediation in Kashmir for the first time for any American president in about 60 or 70 years. Not much happened after that, but it was a small win for the Pakistani position, because usually American presidents never went ever near the K word, Kashmir, never, because the American position was that we are neutral and India claims it, and so does Pakistan, but India also claims it. So we don't want to say the word, because India says it's an internal matter of India. No other country should talk about it. So no American president ever mentioned even mediation in Kashmir, because that would imply that Kashmir is disputed and not part of India, and that would upset India, which is a large country, lots of trade and business and so many other things. So Trump was the first, actually, who maybe to appease the Pakistanis or to sort of, bring Pakistanis closer, did on several occasions mention that Kashmir requires mediation. It's a conflict, it's a dispute, which did not make the Indian government very happy. And so that was one thing. And second was that he was also he was the first American president who on Afghanistan took the Pakistani side. I mean, all the American governments before him were very harsh toward Pakistan when it came to Afghanistan. And he became the first president, Trump, who took the Pakistani side and took the Pakistani arguments on board and worked with Pakistan. So using these two things, the Kashmir thing and the Afghanistan thing, America had, or Washington had, I would assume, some leverage. And I can imagine American diplomats approaching the Pakistani government and saying, well, if you recognize Israel at this time, this would really, really help President Trump in his re-election bid, and would be a boost for him in front of his voters. So if you could help him, we help you. If you could help us, that sort of thing. I can imagine this might have happened in the background. And I think for Prime Minister Imran Khan, and I would conclude by this point, very interesting, that for Prime Minister Imran Khan to say it, I would say, I mean, purely from the perspective of diplomacy, I would say he was breaching private diplomatic conversations. Why would the Prime Minister of Pakistan? I mean, America has not said this openly. I mean, this is, if there is any pressure or communication or whatever, it's all being done in the background. Nobody is embarrassing his government or the Pakistani government openly. So nobody knew about this. It was the Prime Minister Imran Khan who brought this to the public knowledge by passingly, and if you see the video where he mentioned it, he's laughing. He's laughing, and he's like, he has this mischief on his face, and he's saying, well, there's some pressures, and it involves friendly countries. I don't want to mention it, but I stopped it. I said no. And he laughingly says it, and then he moves on to some other issue, domestic political issue, and that's it. So why would the Prime Minister really say it? I would conclude by saying I think the Prime Minister was not compelled to really, reveal this, but I think he said it because he wanted to sort of, he's under pressure right now. The opposition is coming up against him on many other issues. His government is a little weak, although it has a mandate for 5 years and everything. Nobody's going to topple his government, but he's under pressure. He's being assailed by opposition, by the media, lots of economic trouble, so forth. So I think he was trying to prop his government and show the people that, he's taking a stand on an issue that many Pakistanis would agree with.
Yes. Ahmed, can I just stop you there for a minute? I'm going to go for a quick air break, and when we come back, we'd like to continue, actually.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies. From exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy biryani pack, and our traditional range of spice blends. Osman's Taj Mahal. There is no substitute for quality.
An act of love saves lives. Sponsor an orphan with Islamic Relief, and you can help one of the 140 million children who have lost one or both parents through conflict, disaster, poverty, or disease. At Islamic Relief, we support over 60,000 orphans, and we need your help to nurture more children. Your love matters. Sponsor an orphan today. Visit www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Fabric Direct, now open at 224 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban, offering you a variety of dress fabrics, curtaining, upholstery, wallpaper, and deco. Fabric Direct, quality, price, and a range that speaks for itself. 224 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban. Fabric Direct, definitely worth a visit.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
The time is just gone 7 minutes to 9, and we continue with Ahmed Quraishi, journalist and political analyst out of Pakistan, and this comes against the background of the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan talking about pressure from the United States and other countries to normalize ties with Israel. Now, Ahmed, just to continue, and we know at this point in time, you've said so much, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So there are certain undercurrents that would be playing out. And that is the reason why Prime Minister Imran Khan would not actually just make the statement, because something must have triggered him to make the statement. One of the key issues here is to look at countries like we know UAE, Bahrain, Sudan have already now looked at normalizing agreements with Israel, and we see they're building ties very, very rapidly since. As far as Pakistan is concerned, and Pakistan reliant to an extent on support from Gulf states, from the likes of Saudi Arabia, do you think that possibly these Gulf states or Saudi Arabia could have privately, obviously, been talking to Imran Khan, or possibly even looking at a possibility of Pakistan normalizing relations with Israel?
It is a possibility that they might have been talking, and it is. Although I think it's more likely that the Trump administration was in contact, and because at this time the urgency is, or was actually, from Washington, but it is a possibility that one or two Gulf states might have also contacted the government of Prime Minister Imran Khan. I think they're also. Prime Minister Imran Khan mentioned the word, there are pressures on my government to recognize Israel. I think he was also partially referring to internal pressures. When I say internal, is that probably there are some other corners of his government. There's, in Pakistan, you have power centers, you have the Prime Minister, his government, the Prime Minister House, but also you have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you have the military, and all the foreign ministry, the military, are also involved in foreign policy in Pakistan. There's, of course, the diplomacy done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but in Pakistan we have this unique thing called military diplomacy, where the military is also quite involved in foreign affairs and foreign diplomacy and meeting with foreign dignitaries when they visit, and also the army chief goes and conducts diplomacy abroad. So I think there's also a debate within the government itself, and I think they've probably the Prime Minister Imran Khan has received, in addition to the foreign context or pressure, possibly from the U.S. and possibly from Gulf states, but he might have also received internal advice that he could consider maybe making that opening, because there's also a debate within Pakistani government circles on the need to sort of engage Israel to counter India, because India and Israel have a very, very strong and robust relationship, especially on the military domain. And there has been a viewpoint in some sections of the Pakistani bureaucracy or government circles and some military circles as well, that maybe we need to engage Israel in order to sort of, we cannot stop Israel and India from having relations, or any other country, but maybe to sort of balance it. So there's always been this debate. This is not new. This is nothing new. So this has been going on. But I think Prime Minister Imran Khan, the key point is, I think Prime Minister Imran Khan wanted to embarrass everyone. He knew he has these pressures quietly from the U.S. and maybe from Gulf and maybe from within his government, maybe the foreign ministry, maybe the military. But he wanted to sort of scuttle it and sort of stop it, and the best way he thought was to take it to the public opinion. So even if there's any pressure, it's all back channel. Nobody made any public statements. No government made, not Washington, not Gulf states, nobody else. So why would he suddenly, undiplomatically mention it? I think he did it because he wanted the Pakistani public opinion to know And in case there's more pressure on his government, he wanted the Pakistani public opinion to build pressure to stop it. So it's very interesting. I mean, he would, and then his own Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the very next day, would deny it and condemn it and say that this is a media fabrication. There's no pressure. Even though the Prime Minister said it, and in the videos there, as you said, he's a responsible person. Why would he say it if it weren't true? So it's true. He's the Prime Minister. He said it. I'm sure there are pressures. I'm sure there are some internal pressures, and he passingly said it in front of the media to embarrass everyone, to embarrass those who are putting pressure on him internally within Pakistan and externally from outside Pakistan, to scuttle it and stop it. So it's interesting, but I also told you that Pakistan, it is my knowledge also from Pakistani diplomatic actually sources, that Pakistan does have at some level contacts with Israel, diplomatically and possibly on the intelligence level, but Pakistan will not, this is for sure, Pakistan will not have diplomatic relations and establish embassies with Israel without some progress on the Palestinian front. But also at the same time, we have now news that the Palestinian Authority is reestablishing or restoring its own context and security and diplomatic communication with the Israeli government. So it's really very interesting, very complicated. Yeah, lots of going on. Very interesting. You can never know what's happening, really.
Well, that's true. But Ahmed, I must say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us this morning on Salam Media, on News and Views, and for your analysis and your reading into the situation. Once again, we thank you for your time. We do appreciate it, and all the best to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Ahmed Quraishi, journalist and political analyst. And I must say this has been a brilliant analysis on the situation. And once it news had actually broken out, where Prime Minister Imran Khan had actually mentioned this whole question about normalizing relations with Israel. It obviously hasn't been widely reported as such. But like I said, and as Ahmed mentioned as well, that there is definitely something behind this. And where there is smoke, there definitely is fire. We're heading for the news. The time is just gone 9 a.m. We'll be back.
Stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
الذي في القلب غالي